right, welcome to Gen X Rated Thursday edition. -1 still. How we doing today, Uncle Bill?
Doing okay. Haven't looked at my 401k, so I can stay blissfully ignorant, but I don't know, trying to fill both seats here, so a lot of
That's not going
pressure.
to be easy.
Gonna do my
Again, we're a
best.
little short on talent today, but we'll continue to do what we do as best we can.
That's all we can do.
You talked about your 401. I guess I should just put this up, what we're all trying to avoid. These numbers are probably in the last 2 hours. I think it did bottom out at 1,600, the New York Stock Exchange. It's pretty insane what's going on. I mean, driving down the road today, I felt like everything I looked and saw on the roads was normal, except for internally, after that announcement yesterday of his Liberation Day. Everything fell into the shitter. After hours, everything tanked. I mean,
Oh, yeah, dude. I mean, it's Liberation Day. He's liberating us from all of our accumulated gains. I mean, and trying to take down the world economy.
pretty much. And I would say that the world seems better prepared than we are. I think I saw Canada already said, hey, if you guys don't want to lead, we'll step up. If US is tired of it, we'll lead this world show.
Yeah, well, nature abhors a vacuum, so somebody was going to rush in.
And to that point, we always talk about U.S. aid, and I'm seeing today, we not only stopped food coming to the food banks in Tennessee, but now China's stepping in to fill the void in places like Africa, where we used to step in and help people. We're kind of off that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're not interested in soft power anymore, which we spread that, after World War II. We were the good guys. We helped to rebuild Europe. We stepped in, there's a lot of nefarious shit that people didn't know about that we did. But I'm just saying the US, as, in the big picture, US soft power made us a lot of friends and brought us a lot of stability.
And it kept enemies from really wanting to harm us as well. I mean, there's a method to the madness. But we seem to have lost a lot of that empathy and care and kindness. We talked about this on a past episode about the happiness factor and what that can bring to the table for each individual personally. But I don't know. We just bombarded by too much negativity or too much us against them that we can't bind together enough to really give a shit about anybody other than our own thoughts.
Pretty much. I mean, it's a very narcissistic society. Narcissistic? I don't know, but
yeah, narcissistic.
Yeah, it's people are all about themselves. I mean, there's, that book, Bowling Alone, that came out, I think, late 80s, early 90s. I mean, you were seeing the start of it, just everybody kind of doing their own thing, eating lunch by themselves, bowling by themselves. I mean, you have seen a loss of community and people hanging out and getting together. I mean, it seems now the goal is to insulate yourself in your own home. Everything you need is in your home. You don't have to go anywhere. You want to watch first run movies, just fire up your big screen. I mean, people just aren't that interested. And what was that article today about how people aren't having house parties anymore? Did you see that?
No, why would that be?
Because they're just not interested in getting together and socializing. But I think Catherine sent it to me.
Okay.
But it was really interesting. I mean, you remember growing up, our parents, before the divorce, and their friends would have these house parties. They'd get all dressed up.
Friends and neighbors.
Sometimes they'd have a caterer, and they would get together and have a good time. Statistically, people aren't really doing that anymore.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, I don't know that you could fill your house with your friends and neighbors.
Your giant house and your few friends and the one neighbor you talk to.
Sure. And I'm not saying you in particular, but how many the neighbors on my street do I know that get together socially? It's just not really a thing. And I don't blame the neighborhood. I'm just saying it's kind of the direction that we're going in as a nation.
Yeah.
And you're right. You don't know anybody else's problems or concerns or issues if you don't talk to them. And maybe that's insulating in its own right. But we all have problems.
Well, yeah. And I think part of it is, people are so stressed and just overwhelmed, overworked. I saw one of the CEOs saying, during the interview process, if you talk about work-life balance, you're weak. You're not going to be hired. I mean, we've been bamboozled and hoodwinked by this cult of the entrepreneur pulling himself up or herself up by their own bootstraps and just on the grind, on the hustle. Like, not how we're meant to live. That is
Yeah,
that is just not for most of us. I mean, some people are wired that way, more power.
sure.
But, if you're a CEO and you run a company or a manager, at least in my opinion, if people get their work done, I don't care when they do it. I don't care how they do it. I don't care where they do it. I don't need to
Yeah.
have them sitting in my office so that I can watch them. Hire
Well,
your people that you trust to do the job and let them do it.
and we talked about that too during the pandemic. All that office space was open, and then I don't know if it's middle managers, but the people that get to push people around were starting to lose their crap because they had nobody to direct, and
Yeah.
maybe the work was getting done. But hey, how do I empower myself if I'm not, the one telling you what to do?
Or how do I show that I'm actually even necessary?
Yeah,
Maybe
good
they're going to
point.
start looking at me like, hey, this shit's getting done. We don't really need you.
So the big companies brought everybody back, no longer working remotely, even though in our society that seemed like really helpful to a single parent home, even
Hmm.
couples. You need that kind of help, that flexibility. And again, to your point, you get the work done. Why should anybody really care how it's getting done or when it's getting done, as long as it's on time?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, before the pandemic, when our agency was working in the office, as a writer, you're not always writing. A lot of time you're thinking or
Yeah.
you're thinking of ideas. But yet, when somebody comes walking by, a department manager, and they see your computer, you're looking at something else or you're not online, it's like, oh, shit, I got to turn my screen around or I got to pull up this window that looks like I'm working.
Better put down that Jugs magazine.
Yeah, because you're not always, writing literally. I mean, a
Well,
lot
how
of time
can you be the
you're
creative?
thinking, you're contemplating.
Yeah, the creative process demands that you just don't sit there and stare at a blank screen. I mean, you got to use your mind, and that's where it starts. My gosh.
Yeah. So, for creative people, that can be kind of stressful. Like you feel like, especially if you don't have a good manager, somebody that's going to be like, hey, what's going on? Why aren't you working? Like,
Micromanager.
yeah, if you have someone that knows your work, if you got a creative director or a boss, it's like, I know you're going to get this done. I know your work is going to be high quality. So I'm not worried about it. I'm not sitting in my office looking at numbers,
Yeah.
for the
Well,
full 8 or 9
I'm
hours.
looking at you. What are you
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah. It's just a weird culture. I mean, we've just been kind of hijacked by these ultra wealthy people who a lot of them have a screw loose. You really want to emulate somebody like Elon Musk or Peter
Yeah.
Thiel. These are fucking not good human beings.
Zuck. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Zuck, Jesus Christ, that guy.
Well, and to the point where the money became such an extreme amount that what's next? I mean, power, and then we jumped into the power game. Well, that's a select few that are going to have that ability once you have that amount of wealth, and then can generate that into the power to. I mean, let's be honest, Musk is where he is because of this. I mean,
Mhm.
if he was owned a grocery chain, he wouldn't be there, and quite successful grocery chain, but not
Well,
the richest man in the world.
that would be the guy that, yeah, co-owner of the Penguins at one point.
Yeah, good point.
But yeah, it's just almost like a weird cult.
It's definitely a cult, and we're going to keep coming back to that. The feds have cut 275,000 jobs in March, the highest since 2020 pandemic, surpassing both the 2001 and 2008 recessions. Uh, I'm old. I'm well aware of those recessions. One of
Hmm.
them I was coming out of uh, out of employment to try and find work, and that was just not a thing. Um, we, as citizens of the United States, will be paying $6 trillion for these tariffs, just in basically a tax hike. It's the biggest tax hike in U.S. history. I know that we have some people saying, the Commerce Secretary, no, the Secretary of the Treasury, who we talked about in the past. I won't mention him even by name, but he said, "Take some deep breaths." It's like Animal House, where the guy's like, "Nothing to see here.
Yeah,
Don't
all is
panic.
well.
All
Right
is
before he
well."
gets trampled into the ground. Yeah, take some deep breaths and drink a big glass of water, and you won't feel the fact that you didn't have dinner tonight because you're out of cash. I mean, these people are ridiculous. They can't relate to us. They don't want to relate to us. Again, like
No.
we've talked about, these are people that don't really carry cash. Maybe they've got a wallet full of hundies to give out, but
Mhm.
dude, they don't open their own mail. They don't pay their own bills. They don't go to the grocery store.
Yeah,
They do not give a shit. They are so well insulated from the problems that people like you and I, and even other people that are wealthier than us,
sure.
you're still not in that club.
Yeah, not
You
even
can
close.
pretend, but
Yeah,
I'm guessing a lot of people today are looking at their stock portfolio and they're thinking, "Fuck, I'm not in the club."
I'm going to have to work 10 more years.
Yeah.
Will I ever recover from this? And to that point with the economy, we're losing, people are just getting, I guess they call it furloughed, call it laid off. Some are fired, obviously.
Hmm.
But with Trump in charge, he's been in that office for the three largest drops in the Dow ever. So he is making history. But you have layoffs. Whirlpool laid off 650 American workers in Iowa. And I only say American because it was in the article. I guess if
Right.
I would have said workers, they'd have been like, oh, they're probably undocumented. No, these are American workers. Jeep
Hmm.
is laying off 900 people. And the list goes on as do these companies. They talk about bringing manufacturing back. We've talked about this. It takes about a decade to build these factories. And the powers that be, these CEOs, are not in it for that. They will wait. They'll wait to the next administration. Maybe it'll be friendlier. I'm not going to lose my job. I run this company, but I'm not going to make that kind of investment 10 years down the road. It's just
Well,
not.
and ironically enough, there was a plan for that. There was an outlay for that, the CHIPS Act under the Biden administration to build these semiconductor factories. And we need to make that go away now. I don't know if they have because it's
They
very
haven't.
popular.
No, that is going to happen. This guy right here is taking credit for it. And they're talking it up about this amazing deal with Taiwan that, yes, Biden's administration did pull off. The interesting part, and I did see it through the foreign press, and this was well, at least a month ago, they're not bringing their best chip business here.
Yeah.
They are going to put in, a factory here to build these chips, but it's not their high end stuff. So probably good enough for Americans. But to my point, they're bending the knee a bit because, obviously Taiwan needs some protection. I know
Hmm.
China's running their little war games and stuff. So they're going to appease our dear leader. But it's not the answer to everything. No other companies are going to do this. Car sales are already struggling just on the weight of how much it's going to cost. It's 12 to 15,000 more. I saw a woman today online that went to the grocery store 3 days ago. It cost her $35. Today it was $75 for the same stuff. And
Yeah.
it will be select things. You have that Licknick or whatever, the Trump's buddy that he keeps off Sunday shows because he can't keep his foot out of his mouth. Uh, just saying, just check the shelves. If you buy American, it's going to be okay. They're not going to raise their prices. But come on, man.
What are you even talking about?
These are American companies. If they can use the excuse that these tariffs affect them to raise prices, even if it doesn't affect them, you're going to do it. It's just how it is.
Yeah.
So to be looking for Chef Boyardee thinking that it's an American company, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, it's just insane. And and even if if you're a healthy eater, if you're on a vegetarian diet or vegan diet, the price of produce is going to shoot up because there's nobody to harvest it.
Yeah, good point. And
So
that's
yeah, and
and even when we do harvest it and have it in trucks heading to areas that need it, maybe not so fast.
see,
Okay.
that's the thing that really pisses me off. I saw they did it where in Tennessee and Delaware. I mean, the money was spent, right? The check was written. Here comes the food for the food bank, a truckload of food. Yeah, no, we're going to turn that back. Where's that food going? You're just going to let it rot? You're just going to throw it away? I mean, what the actual fuck? You're just being a dick to be a dick.
Yeah, the what and the why. You're absolutely right. It makes no sense.
I
Uh,
mean, the hunger figures in this country are already bad for the wealthiest country in the history of the world. You had so many people with food insecurity and living with hunger, and now you're just making it worse. You know, I
agreed.
mean, Jesus Christ, you're sending thousands of government employees now off without a paycheck to deal with the states, right?
Yeah,
People that may have to go to a food bank, and yet you're going to, throw that food away. You're going to tell the states you deal with it, but you're cutting all kind of funding for unemployment and for Medicaid. I mean, this is just fucking chaos. It's out of control.
it
All
is.
for all to be a dick.
And as Gene says, chaos or community, you choose. And I guess we're
Hmm.
choosing uh, the former.
Well, we'll find out Saturday.
I don't know if you can see this clearly.
Looks like a tornado.
Yes, that was in Arkansas. Uh, Arkansas, Tennessee, Missouri, Indiana. Everybody got pasted by this storm that came through the other day.
Yeah,
That
there
one
were
in
a couple pretty
particular.
close to us yesterday.
Yeah, I mean the alarms definitely went off here. That's for sure.
Yeah, they did.
So I think they've had 7 deaths so far. No real talk about it, but dozens of tornadoes ripped through Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Indiana. 5 deaths in Tennessee, 1 in Missouri, 1 in Indiana. And now we're going to have generational flooding. That would be Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Mississippi, like we've never seen before. So great time to get rid of FEMA.
Yeah.
Great time to stop the food banks and getting food to people that are really going to struggle to find it. And there's little doubt that that is going to be a thing. You can't avoid it. And we just don't seem to have the care for it right now.
No, we don't. Or we had, but we've just decided that that's not very cost effective. So we need to take that money and give it to billionaires.
Yes.
It's ridiculous, dude. It's chaos. It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
It really isn't. And what do you do if your house is destroyed by a tornado or if you're flooded out? There's no FEMA, and your insurance company is more likely to fuck you over and say, well, you're not covered for that, or we've canceled you. What do people do? And I don't care how wealthy you are, how big your house is. If it's destroyed, you're not writing a check. Maybe you are, I don't know, but I don't know anybody like that. If your house is destroyed by a tornado or a hurricane, you're not writing a check to replace your $1.5 million house.
No.
So I don't know what people are going to do.
It's a great question. And as we talked about week after week, I mean, that's why everything's coming out of your community. I mean, you're not going to get federal help, I guess. So you're going to need help from another source, and it's going to be in your neighborhood. These are the people that will understand because they're also suffering in your situation. I've said this 1,000 times, but I'll say it one more time. It wasn't that late up until 2000, where if you had flooding, I remember in particular Houston, when I lived down there, we had flooding through the Brays Bayou, and it was on the news. The United Way was there, or not the United Way, the Red Cross. I mean, people were aware of it. People from all around the country kind of had their finger on the pulse as to, hey, we have this major flooding. Let's see if we can, donate blood, donate money, whatever. And you just don't see that. So like every state that has an issue, you may not even know about it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean,
the Arkansas stuff, unless you're in that area, I don't know that you really are that concerned because it's not on your radar.
Yeah, and you're probably not seeing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably a lot of stuff we're not seeing. I mean, there's a lot of protests that have been going on we're not seeing. You need to go onto Al Jazeera or The Guardian to even see what's happening. But this was before we lived in St. Louis, but I think it was 93 when they had that huge flooding.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
I mean, but it was national news. We lived in Pittsburgh and we saw, I mean, it was a big story. I think it was 1993, but now you just don't see it.
Yeah. And especially if it's localized. I mean, the joke used to be in St. Louis that if the Metro police can get the body off the street fast enough, it didn't happen. As long as you do it before the media gets there, you don't know about it. That is a terrifying tornado on the screen there. I just want to show you the end result that you have in Arkansas.
Wow.
Obviously this aerial view covers a lot of territory, but all of it's, one for all for one here. Yeah, my house is standing and yours isn't, but what are we doing over here, man?
Yeah.
My local shop maybe isn't there. My, whatever. The needs are not going to be filled unless somebody comes and helps out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the Red Cross can only do so much.
Yeah. They're probably just some kind of liberal something other anyway. Yeah. So who cares?
If only there was a government agency that could come in and help people. If only. Huh.
I know. It used to be a thing. It was kind of cool.
And there were people who, probably people who lost their homes who were cheering for it at the time. Oh, we don't need that FEMA. Oh, from the government, I'm here to help. What a big lie. Like, dude, you fucked around and you're finding out. I still
Yeah.
feel sorry for you, but not that sorry.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's been building, and it's not like this happened all at once. So kind of like Gene always says about the frog in the water. I mean, it's slowly heated up. We get desensitized to it. Then we start to get into our own, group that we only care about. And that's
Mhm.
why the cult part, I think, is pretty legit. If you all you listen to is Fox News today, the ticker was removed. It's not something you're going to see. They're not showing the numbers. So um, if you looked at Fox News while the other networks were covering this gigantic crash, they were talking about what were they talking about? Oh, how they covered up Biden's decline of his mental health. I mean, we're so
We,
far into this new administration. Like, are you kidding me? And
yeah.
for the record, the markets were amazing when Biden left.
Hmm.
We chose to allow this to happen as people. And I hope 33% of the people are happy about it because this is awful. Fox News also came in and said, well, one of their reporters said, treat this as like your war effort. People used to save cans and copper and shoelaces and whatever, rubber. This 401 is your war effort.
Well, the war is on us. That's the
We
crazy thing.
started
So,
it.
yeah, get out there and slit your own throats. I mean, the war is literally on us. This is on the middle class and the average American.
Yeah.
And okay, so new car prices have skyrocketed. I'm curious to see what the used car market looks like. I bet that is way sky high now.
Probably. I mean, kind of like when they didn't have rental cars, and then you couldn't get a car in general.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. And I guess Karoline, the press secretary, is doing interviews, and she's talking about things like this, the spiritual revival that we're having, um, giving Trump so much credit for this renewed faith in these younger generations. She thought it was, obviously God saved Trump on that phony assassination. It was God's will, and that's great to
Didn't
believe if
save
you
that guy
want to.
standing behind him, that's for sure.
Yes, the college students worshiping on campuses. Many of them, she was saying, were baptized on in the middle of their campus, and it just seems to me like if it was. Let me just put her up there. This is Karoline having her moment. That is $200,000 worth of stones in her cross, so that's pretty impressive.
Well, Jesus does love her.
They do, and here she is running for Congress. I believe this was in New Hampshire
She looks
that she
totally
ran.
different.
Yeah, she looks a little bit different, maybe a little bit kinder. I can't tell. But the
KKK
point
Caroline.
is, there was such a stink. What if it was four, people of color that were congregating in the middle of a campus and were on their prayer blankets?
Yeah.
Would we have the same understanding and appreciation that they're worshiping to their God or
Oh,
not?
hell no. They'd be rounded up and deported. They'd be on a plane to Louisiana by now. But
Probably
maybe
a
it
good
shows how
point.
desperate they are. When in doubt, play the religion card because, you can always get the evangelicals riled up and praise Trump and praise Jesus and fuck everybody else.
Well, and she's a Roman Catholic, so I guess that's acceptable. Um, if you're evangelical. I don't know. I don't know too much about it.
I don't know. I just know that, part of the reason for the 2008 crash was because the prosperity churches, the um, big mega churches, the ones that won't let you in when you're flooded out because we just had the carpets cleaned. So this,
Yeah.
20,000 feet of space needs to be kept clean and pristine and you need to just go fuck off. But,
Well, and the
they were
flip,
preaching. They were preaching to people and a lot of them were Hispanic, interestingly enough. Hey, God wants you to have that big car. You just go out and get it. You sign that note and he'll provide for you.
Jesus will
Well,
find a way.
how did that work out?
Well, the car was gone while I was asleep, but I can afford a bus pass, so I'm back.
Yeah, or you lost your house. I mean, how many stories did you see about upper class subdivisions sitting empty?
Yeah.
People had abandoned their house. I mean, we had a friend who worked in that business, who cleaned out those houses that had been foreclosed upon.
Yeah. Some
He
of them are
told,
really nice.
yeah. So, I mean, I got a hockey bag out of it that I still have, but, um, I mean, that's what happened. You believe these people, they tell you, well, God is going to provide for you. And, it's just
I find that
crazy.
really hard to get behind all of that.
Yeah. I mean, where was God for that kid? He told me one story about, they had cleaned out a house and in a very nice suburb, all the shit was out on the front lawn. Late afternoon, the kid's school bus shows up. This kid gets off the bus. All of his school buddies are on the bus. They see all of his shit laid out
Why is your
and they
stuff in
laugh.
the yard?
He said they all fucking laughed at him.
That's terrible.
Yeah. America.
Well, yeah. So the cruelty was the last show, so we should move on from that part, I guess. But
Probably so.
it's troubling. A couple other orange guy notes. 3 days ago, I think he talked about being the fertilization president. I think he thought it was cute because it meant maybe he impregnated a lot of women. I'm not sure that
I'm
all of
guessing he
those
paid for a lot of abortions or had maybe Michael
allegedly
Cohen write the checks. Allegedly. I can't say for sure. I don't
could
know.
very well be possible. Though nobody seemed to care about the Stormy Daniels thing. They just hated on her, I guess, because she's a woman, not because he's a pig. And
Mm-hmm.
forced himself on her and then paid her off. But then that was still her fault. So very strange. But for the fertilization president, as he was bragging to this group, and they were literally applauding about what an amazing person he is, he fired most of the IVF team. I mean, 6 epidemiologists, the data analysts, the researchers, all gone. And that's not the only person. They also fired the National Institute of Health, also fired the person that did all the research on Parkinson's. I think we talked about this the other day. We're no longer going to be overfunding for Alzheimer's, which is a giant deal. I think everybody knows somebody who has a family member that's suffered from dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever you want to call it. I don't know the difference. I'm not a doctor. Personally, we've been in that arena too. And
Mm-hmm.
it's super sad. They're still the people, but they're not right. And then the medicine that is exorbitant cost because you'll do anything for a loved one, even $600, $900 a month, doesn't do anything. And then when you do continue to pay and ask the doctor, is the medicine working? They're like, are they getting worse? Because the whole
I can't
scale of the
tell.
medicine is to keep them from getting worse, not better. There is no better.
Yeah. Well, here's the interesting thing. I was watching something and they were talking about how, for years, for decades, they thought that Alzheimer's and dementia were caused by plaques
Mm-hmm.
in the brain. And now there's some research showing that maybe not, that it's caused by the brain starvation because of our diets and some of the things we eat, where if we, the brain operates really well on ketones. So fasting, cutting carbohydrates, especially processed foods, out of your diet. And I'm not saying, going full keto where all you eat is meat, you don't have to be Joe Rogan,
Yeah, that could be a
but they're
problem.
suggesting that some of that now, insulin sensitivity is at fault for Alzheimer's and these brain diseases where the brain is literally starving. It's not getting what it needs and it begins to shut down. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and metabolic diseases, diabetes, type 1 and 2, arthritis, or psoriatic arthritis, things like that, Parkinson's. A lot of these can be traced to our diet and the things that we eat, the way we care for our bodies. But you can have a nut job like RFK Jr. spouting "Make America Healthy Again," but where's the research for that? You're getting rid of people.
Well, and
You're
not
supposed to
to,
go after big pharma and the big food companies, but just another lie.
yeah, we went after them and jacked up insulin prices again.
Yeah,
It was affordable, but you know what? We're going to tariff the pharmaceuticals next. Okay. Well,
yeah,
we
sure they
already
are.
had a deal and it worked for every American that needed insulin. And
And
now
there's
we
a lot
don't.
of them.
Yeah. Well, and
How many
back to
people
your
do we know
point.
right now that are pre-diabetic? And how many in our generation are heading towards Alzheimer's and dementia? We're hitting that age.
Yeah, and to the bigger picture, why is this? Why are we eating so much of these foods that are bad for us? That our diet just is based on everything has to be faster. You have no time to eat. You're eating on the go. We talked about this before. 50% of adults eat all 3 meals alone. I
Mhm.
mean, that's crazy. And they're probably eating better than most of us because they're packing a lunch. I mean,
Yeah.
and I don't know that all of them are packing lunch. But my point is the food that we eat is so processed and prepared for us. Who cares about the farmers? Send those soybeans to overseas because we're not eating them. We're certainly not eating enough for the farmers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and a lot of this goes back to, the Farm Bill from, I think it was like under Nixon in 73, maybe, where we have all this corn we can't get rid of. We're paying these farmers for corn that we can't use. So you know
Subsidy.
what? Let's develop high fructose corn syrup. We can put that in everything.
Yes.
So a lot of it came down to economics.
Which is great that they found a use for it, but could you have found a worse use for it and then fed it to us? I mean, we went
Yeah.
through a phase of using margarine, right? I mean,
Yeah. Which was basically plastic. Which,
yeah,
thank you. I get enough of that from, drinking bottled water.
well, and I mean, these studies have been around forever, but we talked about this too. You sit on a couch. None of us starting out were buying, real leather couches. These are the foam couches we all sat on. Flame
Mhm.
retardant would end up in the breast milk because you're sitting on it. Now you've consumed it, and now you're passing it on to the next generation.
Yeah. Well, and we were still better off than a lot because, growing up in, the 70s, we didn't have as much of the processed stuff. I mean, it was
For sure.
starting to come out, but still a lot of the fruits and vegetables we got were more of the organic type. People shopped locally. You didn't have the giant mega markets.
Yeah.
So I think we were a little bit, and we were active.
Yeah.
We were get out of the house, go out and run around. I don't care what you do. I don't care where you go, but I don't want to see you till the streetlights come on or I call you for dinner. So just go fucking do something.
Yeah.
And
Go
we
blow
did.
the stink off and get out there.
Yeah. Heard that phrase more than a few times.
Amen.
And so we did. We went out and, a lot of the shit we did was not a great idea. Let's see if we can jump the barricades on our bikes or let's,
Whatever. Digging trenches. Uh,
yeah, digging trenches and seeing how far we can get before it starts to collapse or, starting small fires,
sure.
breaking into porn warehouses. I mean, yeah, but we were active, burning calories and moving our parts around.
Well, sure. And you had enough kids because everybody in your neighborhood was kicked out of their house. You could
Hmm.
actually field a team to go play baseball. Um, at least have 5-on-5, if not 6-on-6. I mean, you could do sports. You had enough people. It wasn't like, I mean, there were times you and I, there's two of us playing football.
Oh,
Sure,
yeah.
we made it work, but I'm passing it and catching it.
We used to play it on the street with the four of us, remember? Me
Yeah,
and you and your buddy Dave and kid next door. Little 2-on-2 football. We could play that for, fill up a whole afternoon right there.
absolutely. And it was fun. And you drank out of a hose if you got thirsty, and
Hmm.
you didn't get yelled at when you came home and the streetlights were on.
Yeah,
Plus,
they
you
didn't care
slept
where you
pretty
were,
well.
what you'd been doing. As long as you weren't brought home by a cop, they didn't care.
And the cops weren't really going to bring you back either, I
Yeah.
guess.
And a lot of times they weren't even home. We got home before they did.
Yeah, good point. What'd you
I'm
do all
home
day?
back
That
late.
was not a question that was asked. What'd you do all day? They didn't care.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a mean way. It's just a fact. They were busy
Yeah.
doing their own thing, which was fine.
We did not have helicopter parents or
No,
tiger moms. Not a
no, and
thing.
it was good. And
We turned out fine, except for the percentage of us that voted for this
Trump,
shit show. But,
shit show extraordinaire.
a lot of us
Uh,
turned out just fine.
yeah. And I'm going to put this guy up real quick. This is Mike Waltz. Uh, I don't want to forget this because it's
Last waltz.
it's about SignalGate. Finally, the Pentagon has an acting inspector general. Don't forget the Friday night crisis. The minute Trump won was to fire all these inspector generals.
Hmm.
Now we have an acting inspector general at the Pentagon that is going to investigate this Hegseth deal with these group chats on Signal. Mike Waltz, in particular, the NSA advisor, had 20 different group chats going on Signal. He talked about policy in Ukraine, China, Gaza, the Middle East in general, Africa, Europe, and they would have a heart failure talking about Hillary's emails. It's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, but those emails, lock her up.
and this guy's doing it plain and simple. And then you see his hands up. We'll go back to her hands up. Hands up, don't shoot. What are we doing here? It's crazy. I don't know.
Should be hands down bullshit.
Yes. And I just don't appreciate that, it's good for one, but not good for the other. It's just ridiculous and
Well,
over the top, and it shouldn't be forgotten. They're flooding it. Maybe this crashing of the market was a good thing because it's a distraction away from the illegal activities that they're doing already.
I guess, but is an earthquake a great distraction from a fucking hurricane? I mean, neither one is good.
Yeah. Well,
And
good
neither one
point.
makes this stupid administration look good, but that's where we are.
Well, and you brought up the fact about some of our childhood and the foods that we ate that were different. I'm going to put this up here. I find this pretty entertaining, but you look back at some of the. Is that cut in half?
Well, I can see the sign, Bonanza. I love Bonanza.
They
That
had
dude,
that
when we got a
amazing
chance to go to Bonanza, that was some good eating.
some amazing Texas toast. I can't get it
Yeah.
up, but if you can read, well, so to speak, on here, if you can read it,
It's your Constitution.
Yeah, I don't. I think they missed a letter, but back in the day, you didn't have to be perfect. You just had to sound it out. You can see Hills in the background. I
I
just thought
remember
this guy
Hills.
was very entertaining looking, sitting outside of his Bonanza. This is maybe a little bit more updated Bonanza. I don't know why it's so flaky.
Are there any of those left?
And I think no, because they turned into this place, Ponderosa.
I like Ponderosa too.
Well, there were a lot of a lot of people loved Ponderosa. Let me just see here. Where were they? Ponderosa.
They were everywhere.
They were pretty much everywhere, and it did start out as Bonanza, or which I don't think it had anything to do with that show. I just think it was kind of a topic. But
No, I think one of them was started by one of the guys that starred on
Bud,
Bonanza. Yeah.
is that right?
Yeah, I think Bonanza was started by I forget which guy it was. It might have been Haas, the fat one.
Yeah, Haas. That's who I was thinking of.
Yeah.
What did I call him? Bud. Yeah.
Hey, bud.
Yeah, and Ponderosa, I think you can still find. Well, I don't know that you can if they're still out there because I did run across this
Closed.
closed. I think part of their
Hashtag
strategy, and I'll jump to another fine steakhouse that you might remember. I know we had one near us. Where is it? Oh yeah, the Steak and Ale.
People love the steak and ale.
Yeah, I mean, the Steak and Ale was one of the first. It was the bridge from fast food to fast dining, I guess they called it, which I don't know what that means, but unlimited salad bar, and cheap steak and prime rib was kind of their thing, which seems crazy, but they did it.
Dude, people loved it. I mean, there was one. Was it the steak and ale or the Black Angus that was by us?
It was a Steak and Ale.
Was it? Okay. But there was one called the Black Angus that I remember.
Yes.
And that might have been higher end. I don't know, but people loved the steak and ale, and it looked classy. It was like dining at an English country manor.
It really did.
You could get a grog or a tankard of ale.
That was pretty awesome. Where is it? Yeah, I mean, I think as meat prices went up, as more people, I mean, we all of a sudden you have a Ruth's Chris, the Chop House. You're not necessarily going to stumble back into Ponderosa.
Well, it became like all about branding, right? As people got more money, it was like you need a higher end. And dude, Ponderosa and Bonanza were like, it was a chance to eat steak for, the middle class kids.
Exactly. That's
or the
exactly
middle
what
class
their
parents to
philosophy
take their
was.
family out for a steak dinner because we didn't eat steak too often growing up at home. It was a big deal when we had it. I remember you, you were done. You didn't want to eat. You were like, you're going to sit there. I think it was before the divorce. I think Dad was like, you're going to sit there and you're going to eat that steak.
That I believe.
And they weren't high quality steaks, but what did we know? It's like, hey, I'm getting a steak, and I think was it the ribeye? It was like I remember they were like really flat.
The Delmonico.
And it had the lines painted on it, but it was delicious. And you got your tray.
Salisbury steak.
It was a step up from Salisbury steak, but you got your tray. You went through the line. You got your sides, dude. I love Bonanza and Ponderosa.
Well, and you could go back as many times as you wanted to the salad bar.
Well, it was good eating.
Limited.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if you remember this place. It was wait, that's not it. Burger Chef and Jeff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Uh, I remember it slightly.
Well, they gave you
Um,
a toy, didn't they?
yes, they gave you a puzzle and like a little frisbee disc. I thought the most concerning part about that place, here's what you got in your little tray, which I always
Hmm.
looked forward to. Uh, it was like your first Happy Meal before Happy
Yeah.
Meals became a thing. Um, but I need to find the photo. I mean, I didn't even realize these two had an animated cartoon. I think the Hanna-Barbera people did it, which was just
Really?
weird. But the thing that was the weirdest part about that place was this. Um,
I
what is going on here?
don't know. There was one picture where they it was like the staff there, and the manager looked like a serial killer, and they had this creepy looking scary clown out front with them.
Terrifying.
Oh,
I could not find the clown picture other than these two clowns.
they probably took it down. It was too terrifying.
It was pretty scary.
But we had a place called Winkies too. You remember Winkies?
Yeah, happy to be hungry at Winkies.
Yeah.
Yes, our grandfather used to take us out for a Winky Dink.
Yeah, get these boys a Winky Dink. I remember going to one and wanting a hot dog, and they're like, "What the? Look around, you stupid kid. There's no hot dogs here.
This is Winkies.
It's
It's
a
not
Winky
Winky
dog.
Dinky Dog.
Winky, Winky Dinky dog. That's right.
That movie was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Uh, and then I'll jump back to a couple other places. You had your Arthur Treachers.
Dude, I loved Arthur Treachers.
That seemed like a real British thing.
Is that the one that came wrapped in newsprint, like
Yes.
fake newsprint?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Dude, that place was awesome. It was way better than Long John. It was like a step up from Long John
Oh, of
Silver's.
course. Oh my God, yeah.
It felt classy at Arthur Treacher's.
Well, and they have that signage out front that just couldn't be beat. I mean, what is that thing? Is it a telephone pole? Is it the signage? I mean,
I don't know, but it got your attention.
it really did. We had one at the end of Mount Lebanon Boulevard, and
Yeah.
it was a treat. It was further walk, but if you could afford it, that's where you were going, boy.
Mm-hmm.
I
You
thought that was
literally had to
pretty
cross the
good.
trolley tracks to get there.
Yes. Another one of our favorites was the Ground Round.
Ah, dude, I love the ground round. You remember in college when we were broke, if we ever got like a couple of bucks together, we'd go and splurge at the ground round.
Yeah. There's four remaining in the Midwest, but they're just not around. They were one of the first that you could eat. They offered you free peanuts. You threw them on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Their burgers and then beer specials. Now we were too young, but
Well, they
on
had
your
wing nights too. They had a wing night.
is that right?
Me and my buddy Jeff Banizak used to hit that up, and
So
I
you
think I
had been
dated.
old enough then for like the beer night too, which I didn't realize they
Oh
were so
yeah,
big on beer specials.
but yeah, I dated a waitress from there.
Oh, nice.
Mhm.
Well, they were founded by Howard Johnson's, and
I
they
had
also had
Howard
a deal
Johnson's
where
too.
you could pay a penny per pound on the kid. So the kid got on the scale.
A
He weighs 32 pounds. You got 32 cents.
lot of dads brought their kids hungry. They starved them. Maybe shave off a few cents. You're not missing any meals, kid.
Well, and to that end, this was the new sign
Aw,
closed. But like I say, there are four of them left. So that gives me hope if I'm ever traveling through the Midwest and can find one. That would
yeah.
be super. I did think it was interesting that whole era, and I will jump to these guys. Now, this is old. Now, I said Howard Johnson's bought Ground Round. But the Howard Johnsons, these motor lodges, is how it started.
Hmm.
Uh, just on the highway, like, oh, let's pull into Hojo's. 28 flavors. I know locally chipped ham was kind of a big deal there. Um, and then Marriott
I
bought
don't
them,
remember
and
the
that was
chipped
kind of
ham. I remember they used to have they had like a really big hamburger.
oh, is that right?
Yeah, Isley's had the chipped ham.
I thought Howard Johnson's, maybe that was the barbecued chipped ham or something.
They might have,
That's something weird.
but
Um,
again, I thought Howard Johnson's was classy too. What did I know?
well, and it was, if you can pull up to the place like that, it's unbelievable.
Oh, hell yeah.
Um, this is for our buddy Gino. I'm going to pop this one up. Gino's Hamburgers. Uh,
And KFC.
yeah. Well, they started that trend at the gas station where you can have two different companies in there selling crap.
Hmm.
Just to finish on the Burger Chef and Jeff, they were like a Fuddruckers where they had the fixins. So it was one of the first places where you could dress up your burger. It wasn't just about the stupid kids meal with the toys and the fun meal.
Oh yeah.
which was kind of neat. To Gino's, though, it was they partnered with some Colts players. So the Colts players were participating in it. I know you mentioned Gino Marchetti and Joe Caminella.
I'm not sure about Joe Caminella, how to pronounce his name, but Gino Marchetti was a Hall of Famer, man. That guy was a much feared defensive lineman. He fought in the Battle of the Bulge.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah, dude
Okay.
was a beast. Played a game with a broken leg.
Jeez. Oh,
Hmm.
Jack Youngblood style, eh?
Yeah.
So it was kind of neat. Those Gino burgers are now Roy Rogers. But I just thought it was kind of neat that, you didn't hear at that time players actually investing in these restaurants and stuff. Here's Gino's. I just threw these guys in. They look kind of creepy.
Well, the way they're looking at those ladies, yeah, that's a bit creepy, especially the guy in the forefront there.
It's just funny too with age because those girls from their face look young, and I'm sure they are. And those guys could be 30. I mean, I'm not saying they look that old, but who's wearing a tie with that belt and white shirt? Unless they're Mormons and on a mission. If
Or
they
middle
are,
management.
they shouldn't be ogling the girls. That's not a very Mormon thing to do. But
That's okay. You got your magic underwear on, you're good.
I'll throw in the Bob's Big Boy because that's always somewhat entertaining. I think they're still around, no?
I think so. Well, dude, we had Eaton Park,
Yes, Eaton
which was
Park
the
is a
same. You could get the
treasure.
big boy there, and it was the same dude.
Oh yeah, you're right. I thought he looked familiar.
Yeah.
Elby's also had that guy holding his burger up high.
Yeah. I don't know. Is LB still around?
No way. Too many
Uh,
people like you didn't pay on their check and ran out. Okay, call it.
dude, that was horrifying. Me and our buddy Dave went there for breakfast one day and ducked out on our check. And then that night, mom went, let's go to LB's. I'm like, oh, really?
Can we go to Bimbo's instead?
I certainly hope the shift has changed.
Probably back then you weren't exactly sure, but
Yeah, I was sweating that one out.
oh my gosh, you've been like, oh, I thought my buddy was going to pay for that. Well,
Yeah, it's his idea.
I had another one too that was close to us. This guy, which pretty familiar now. Not the White Tower, but I'm a little surprised you don't remember those towers, Billy.
Now that I remember the building, now that you see, yeah.
Yeah, it was right on the corner coming home, and it was just really bizarre. Maybe this is a better example for you.
Yeah, no, that I remember. I just don't remember being there.
No, well, we didn't have any money. We weren't eating fast food. I mean, that just wasn't a thing.
Well, we went to Friendly's. Friendly's got all the attention because you could
Yeah,
get
if your dad was taking you, you went to Friendly's, but nonetheless, it's not like we would. I mean, even McDonald's was a treat back then, and we'd get to eat outside. It was like in the summer.
Oh yeah, dude, I remember that when the Big Mac came wrapped in like it had like that cardboard band around it, and you
Bands
could
that
put it
make
on
your
your head and
day.
wear it like a crown.
Yeah. Yes, once you ate it, and then your head smelled like McDonald's for 3 days.
Yeah, and you liked it because
Take a
McDonald's
shower,
was
you
awesome.
stinky bastard.
We
Uh,
didn't shower back
the
then.
whole White Tower thing was based on hygiene, which I find kind of entertaining. If you've been to what's the new one now that the people get all those tiny burgers from?
Oh, Crystal?
White Castle.
White Castle?
Yeah, same idea. But this place was so big on their hygiene. I think there's one location, or the last one was in Toledo, Ohio, but they had their waitresses were in nurse outfits, and they called them towerettes.
I don't remember
Not only
that.
was it clean, but you had healthcare on site. Seems crazy.
Sending mixed messages there. This food might kill you, so we've got somebody here to bring you back should you happen to stroke out.
Yeah, so we've got nurses on hand, and they will clean the floor once you've passed out anyway. So,
And they probably wash their hands.
absolutely.
Yeah,
The last
that
one
I
I'm
don't
going to
remember.
touch on, which was kind of a weird subject, was Sambo's.
Yeah, the unfortunately named Sambos.
Yes, and keep in mind that they had two owners. This was in Santa Barbara, I believe. They had two owners. One was Sam Battistone, and the other one was Newell Bonnet. So they just combined their names. They weren't even thinking about it. So you had Sam
Apparently
and
not.
Bo. Sam and Bo. What could
Yeah.
go wrong? So initially, it was they based it all on that story. Let me see if I can find the. It was a kid's book about a
Mhm.
tiger. Here's a better one. Um, so the story of Little Black Sambo. So they covered the walls with illustrations from the book, which was nice to them. It was a dark-skinned kid with a tiger, and then they had this pale magical unicycle guy. They called him the Tree Friend. I mean, it was really kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
Within a couple years, though, in the '60s, all of a sudden this kid became light-skinned, which you can see, and then wore like an
Whitewashing.
Indian-style jewel turban. Um, Maybe that was supposed to distract from the name. It didn't work very
Didn't work.
well, but I don't think there was any intent there. They had a kids club, lion tamers club. I mean, they went all for it, but it's offensive enough that obviously something had to be done, and they were kind of taken out of the fold based on that. They tried to change the name, but it just wasn't the same.
No, you've tainted it.
You're not going to win. Highly offensive.
Yeah.
But again, that place started in 1957. I don't think that necessarily they were putting that kind of information together. Ground Round was something started in 1969. Burger Chef and Jeff, if you can believe it, was from the 50s,
Was it really?
1954. I mean,
No
no
way.
wonder. Oh, I'm sorry.
For real?
Yeah, no wonder
Huh.
Hanna-Barbera had a cartoon.
Dude,
I
I thought
mean,
that was like straight up like 1968, 69, 70.
into
Huh.
like, yeah, and I think they were done by 73 maybe. Gino's Burgers 1957, because the Colts were actually in Baltimore.
Hmm.
I said that to somebody and they were like, Baltimore? I'm like, yeah, the Colts are in Indianapolis and the Ravens are in Baltimore.
Yeah, and I mean, back then those guys lived in neighborhoods with regular people
Yeah,
and they worked jobs and they were part of the community because they weren't getting paid shit.
you're right. That's
You know
an
what I mean?
excellent point. I think that's why the incorporation of players being part owners in that is uh, so rare at that time, because you're right. Even the Steelers of the '70s, those guys were selling insurance in the offseason. And as
Hmm.
you've pointed out in the past, training camp was 2 months because these guys weren't in any kind of football shape.
Yeah, not like they are now. No, there was no, after the season ended, those guys went their separate ways, and we'll see you in training camp.
Yeah.
Now, they may have had like a mini camp. I can't remember if the veterans had to come in, if it was just a rookie thing. The Steelers lost a draft pick one year because I think 78 or 79 because Chuck Noll had them practicing in pads, and that was
I know. No.
against the collective bargaining agreement. And John Clayton, who went on to fame with ESPN, great NFL reporter, Pittsburgh guy, started out with the
Mhm.
Post Gazette or the Press, I can't remember, but he reported it, and he was on Noel's shit list forever after, but just doing his job.
And people did love John Clayton,
John Clayton was great.
and he
Yeah.
was just doing his job. You're absolutely right. So, I mean, I think that's just kind of cool that those guys were ahead of the curve in that they not only had jobs, but then they partnered with a burger chain, which I'm sure they went to quite a bit. It didn't say whether they had beer there, but how could you not? Uh,
Yeah, and lots of it.
and to that point, Burger Chef and Jeff became Hardee's. And then, as I said, Geno's became Roy Rogers. I've seen Roy Rogers in the South. I don't know that I've seen that recently or if that's even a thing still.
Well, did Roy Rogers become Rax?
No, but Rax was one of the other ones. I don't think so. I mean, Rax is like
It was the same roast beef sandwiches, though. I swear to God, it was the same thing, wasn't it?
same as Arby's.
Yeah.
The Rax was amazing. I really like that.
They had one in the basement of the cathedral, remember?
Yep.
At Pitt.
Yeah.
And they had like the salad bar. You could, two of you could go in. One would just, because we were always broke, one ordered up the salad bar. You got the plate, and then you kept the plate. Take that plate and go up there again.
And they didn't care.
And again.
Yeah. Well, a little bit different now, and people don't want to eat what they're serving necessarily, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh, it was just different, and the food was different. The experience was different. You actually had time to go in and sit. I know now you have a 30-minute window for lunch. You're obviously eating on the go. You're taking it out. Maybe you're eating at your desk. I mean,
Hmm.
we just build on top of the stress of like constantly going and going, and you just don't have a minute to breathe or to associate with anybody else, which I think is kind of the points that we were trying to make, that you're losing
It
your
could be.
connection to people.
Yeah.
And then here we are, you start to lose your connection with people, and you don't have any empathy for them when shitty things happen to them.
Mhm.
Oh well. But again, especially on the health front, something happens to you, and then all of a sudden you're outraged. What do you mean it's not covered by healthcare? Whereas, my neighbor who, had the same issue 5 years earlier, I didn't really care. But now it's happening to me.
Yeah.
I think maybe with the markets that'll. I'm not going to say that would be a positive, but we're all in this. And as you and Gene have been saying for months, haves have not Republicans, not Democrats, not liberals, conservatives. This is you have or you don't. You're insulated enough from this crash or
Yeah.
you're not. And
Yeah.
frankly, none of us are unless you're a billionaire because we don't know where this is going to stop. Everybody else is raising their tariffs on us,
Mhm.
and we're the ones that started it. Trump thinks he's so smart, and you have people coming out and saying the number board that he brought out doesn't even make sense. And you put tariff
Yeah.
on penguins. There's not even anybody in that territory where he's putting tariffs.
I think, is there a U.S. military base there, maybe? I think those might be the only, oh, no? That was someplace
Zero
else.
population, zero population. It just shows that he's not doing his homework. And when the
Dude, he
analyst
didn't even
came
know about
out,
the missing soldiers in Lithuania.
they did find the fourth one. I'm glad you brought that up. I have not heard a peep. I did hear Trump talk on it yesterday, I believe. And he talks about it like he talks about everything, where he says, giant equipment, a lot of mud there, and those cranes, they are just massive. They're so huge and big. I think it slipped, and when it fell, instead of saying, yes, we lost 4 service members that were, important to our country, dear to, word out to their families, nothing. We just talked
Mhm.
about this giant crane and great visual. Now I can picture those guys toppling over and probably drowning. And this is
He didn't
speculation.
even know
I'm
about it, so
saying
well after the fact.
correct. Oh my God, 7 days later, Hegseth hasn't said anything. And the point is that
Oh,
these guys,
Hexeth sent thoughts and prayers to all of their family and friends.
oh good, and friends. Well, that's
And
important.
yeah, and I think the White House put out a statement that they're all in the White House staff's prayers. I mean, these
It's not
people,
enough. It's not enough.
yeah, no.
These people sign up, they dedicate themselves to our nation, and then we just cast them aside. We're seeing this in Doge getting rid of people. I see,
Yeah, cutting the
Trump gives
VA,
these
their
great
health care. I
descriptions.
mean, how many veterans worked in those government jobs that they're firing?
A lot.
Unbelievable. And now you've got a bunch of idiots at the top of the command that can't even help but they're so out of it, so ridiculous. They added a reporter to their text change. Oh, those weren't war plans, they were battle plans. Get the fuck out of here. You
Those are
guys are
fighting
all
words,
incompetent.
okay?
They all should have been fired. Somebody probably should go to jail for that.
Well, to that point, Laura Loomer, who there was speculation during the campaign that her and Trump were pretty tight. She's kind of a right-wing
Another nut
influencer.
job.
If
Yeah.
you don't know Laura Loomer, but she was really down on Trump's policies after he was elected. But she came back. She got to sit down with the president, and he fired 3 people from the National Security Agency that she didn't feel were being very loyal to him. Uh, Not Gabby Tulsa or whatever, but Laura
Tulsi
Loomer
Gabbard.
suggested this, and then people are getting fired. And to your point, you're right. We're hoping to have our friend on the show soon to kind of talk about some of that. He was on a similar uh, uh, tour where he was in Lithuania himself.
Mhm.
And I thought he could maybe speak to some of this, which would be interesting because he served his time.
Yeah.
He went into, I think he's in private industry now, but a lot of his friends and people that he served with did have government jobs, and they are losing their jobs. So
Yeah.
the natural course is, if you get in at 18 and you're able to retire by 38, you still are working. Nobody retires to get on their fishing boat. And these are jobs where people are qualified to step into government. I'm not saying there isn't fraud, waste, and abuse, but the buzzword's a little much now. We're not
Mhm.
sending anybody to jail. So to me, you're just firing people to fire people just to talk about it. And then you're getting rid of some good people. And the people
Yeah.
you spoke about at the top didn't even have the clearance that our friend might have had, or certainly not qualified as he is
Dude,
to
no, they're not
run.
qualified. They're completely incompetent. I mean, Pete Hegseth is just a DEI hire.
He really is.
Unqualified white guy. I mean, you dismissed a very highly qualified African American guy from the Joint Chiefs for no
Unbelievable.
reason. So you could replace him with a fucking drunken dolt.
Dolt is the right word. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Beefeater Pete, as Gene would say.
And again, all of us suffer for that because all of
Mhm.
our national security and safety is under his command. To me, that's the most terrifying part. So
Yeah.
I can argue with you about taxes. I can argue about you with whether the environment is heating up or not. But you
It
can't
is.
argue that we're in danger when we're not able to defend ourselves on our own land. It's crazy, and I really don't feel that prepared. I don't think that China's looking to make some kind of move. I think Trump's trying to make a deal with Russia so that he can turn over Ukraine. I did see today that the big meeting with the EU that they're having to talk about Ukraine, Hegseth isn't going to. So we've totally
I don't think
checked
they
out of
want
that.
Hegseth there.
I'm sorry.
I don't think they want Hegseth there.
Well, that could be too, but he
Honestly, I
put it as
mean,
they're not going. The numbers that Trump reeled off about the $360 billion that we gave them as a loan, all these numbers are made up. I think
like
we gave
everything
them
Trump says.
64 billion, and most of it was in our old arms, right? Any of our
Mhm.
old weapons and stuff we gave them, and they're kicking ass with it. Don't get me wrong. Starlink jumps in and they're going to take down the satellites so they can't use them. Russia started bombing them heavily in the last 2 weeks, which was garbage. Well, what
Yeah.
happened? France stepped in. They've got their own satellite system. Hey, forget Starlink. Here you go. Protect
Mhm.
yourselves. They understand. This guy in the White House doesn't understand. Uh, as you always say, it's like a doomsday cult or some crap
It
that they
is.
just follow. Now I got to listen to Karoline talk about, the spiritual revival. I'd be all about spiritual revival, but now you're getting into everybody's faith and the Christianity thing and God's will for Trump. Now you've taken it too far.
Yeah.
Practice and preach what you want, but don't make it, you're the end all be all, because we all have our beliefs.
Oh yeah. Well, dude, up until Reagan, up until the late 70s and early 80s, the evangelicals stayed out of politics.
Yeah.
And then
For
Lee
fear of being
Atwater,
taxed.
yeah, Lee Atwater, I hope he's still roasting in hell on a spit at the Devil's Barbecue, decided, hey, you know what? We can activate these people. We can get them involved. We'll get them to go after busing and then abortion.
Yeah.
And, we'll call it the Southern strategy, but it was a fucking dog whistle and it was outright racist. But you got these people involved and there's a lot of them and they vote and they're all part of it's a different cult, but it kind of ties in nicely with the MAGA cult.
Sure.
These people are insane.
And that they're white and hateful. Yes.
Yeah, they're no more Christian. I mean, there's nothing Christian about these people. I'm sure if Jesus himself showed up at one of these things, he would fucking be like, you know what? You're all going to hell. Fuck all of you. My
And they'd
dad
be like,
says you
hey, who
guys
invited
suck.
the brown guy? Get him.
Yeah.
He seems too kind to people. That can't be right.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Well,
Hmm.
I wanted to jump to a happy ending. Uh, I only have one because this day has been horrendous. And I don't know, it's more happy in the fact that this gentleman who I highly respect, Eugene Robinson, not Gene's teammate. He was not looking for a blowy before
Hey,
the
Eugene, rough night last night?
but he's quitting the Washington Post, all over the direction and the image of the editorial board. The Washington Post used to be, I mean, we all know Deep Throat, they broke Watergate, etc.
Hmm.
That stuff's gone. And as we always talk about, find your independent sources, The Nation, Mother Jones, Tom Hartman. I mean, the list goes on. And
Yeah.
we're certainly happy to list more if you're looking for that. But New York Times are
The
like,
New
oh, the
Republic.
failing New York Times. Nobody cares about the New York Times. It's not a thing. It's, they fit in with the rest of print news, which is just not doing their job.
Yeah. Well, because they're owned by billionaires that, call the shots. Hey, don't publish that endorsement for Kamala.
Yeah.
Don't put that out there. We don't want to influence anybody. I mean, yeah. So
And
good
they
on him for walking
influence
away from that shit show.
and they influence by not influencing. And I believe
Hmm.
Eugene was down in Houston when I was down there in the 90s. So he's been on the case for quite a while. He's always been straight up. He's not a liberal nut job or whatever you want to project onto these people. They were journalists and they
Yeah.
did deep dives and they covered news and they covered corruption. And we're just so blind to that anymore that we can just call them names and walk away and continue to
Fake
rob
news.
and steal. Fake news,
Lying press, fake news. Yeah.
hoax, witch hunt. Do I need to go on?
Sadly, no.
Unbelievable.
We get it.
Yeah. Well, I know you do. And then, Billy, you got anything happy for me today? I know the weather's been glum.
Yeah.
Tornadoes might be back tonight.
Geez, I hope not. I hate when those sirens go off and wake me up. That's the
Terrifying.
worst. I was able to sit on my chair with my cracked tailbone
All right. And
for an
not on
hour.
a
So
donut or anything?
yeah, I do actually.
All
Well, it's one of those, the travel pillows that go around your neck. If you sit on that, it's like a donut.
right.
So
Fair enough.
yeah, but yeah,
Nothing
don't
wrong with
don't
that,
crack your
buddy.
tailbone.
I'm just glad you're healing. I guess that's the good news.
Yeah, it feels a little bit better than it did yesterday. So yeah, Tuesday was a shit day, cracked tailbone and other stuff. But today, I'm able to sit on it for an hour and it's okay. So
All right, Fonzie.
hurts less. But I got to sit on my donut, so I feel like I'm getting old now.
But you look like you're heightening, so that's even better.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I appreciate your time today. I know we're still missing Gino. I'm hoping that we'll be
Yeah.
seeing him soon.
Hope so.
But in the meantime, Saturday, my ladies have playoffs out of town, so I will be traveling. I don't know that we're going to be able to get together on that.
That's okay. I will be busy protesting. I'll be going to the local hands-off protests. So
yeah, don't forget Hands Off 2025. Look in your local area because people will be turning out for that. It's Saturday, noon Eastern time. Here it's 11 a.m. So get out. People will get out. You may not see it in the news. I'm
Can't
sorry.
sit on the sidelines. You just can't. You can't sit at home.
I mean, the markets have never fallen like this. They've never brain drained our healthcare industry, our research. We're losing so much intelligence out of our country. We're always worried about China stealing our intelligence. Well, we're giving it away now. People are leaving.
And China's like, that shit's obsolete. We're way past that.
It's unbelievable. So, yes, turn out on Saturday if you can in your local area, which would be great. I know
Vern's going to be out there, so
Eastern time. And then for us, let us know. We would love some comments, some feedback, subscribe, share, whatever it takes. But we're going to try and come back. If not Saturday because of the rally, hopefully we'll be back Tuesday and we can get our old buddy back.
Yeah. Well,
it's the hope and the dream.
It's the hope and the dream because, those are some big shoes to fill.
Giant shoes. And as you can see, the talent level has fallen quite a bit. So
yeah, I'm not that entertaining. I'm not nearly as good looking as Gene.
It's true. So let's hope our buddy's doing okay, and we'll see him soon. All right, Billy. Well, I guess that's the end. Maybe I'll see you tonight, Friday and a Thursday.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Penn's Blues. It's in town.
There you go. With the kid. All right, man.
All right.
Talk to you later.
All right.
See ya.
See ya.